Hey, we're in it. Oh, hang on. Oh, the round heads.
What do we say?
Merry Christmas. Dad, you need to go lower.
You need to get your head in.
Oh, you don't see it.
Ready? Mum, get your head more in. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Merry Christmas! But not from Dad!
Look.
Skinny legs.
Skinny leg, yeah. Isn't he handsome?
Dad, don't do photos in.
Oh! Oh, yes! We freed it! Yes, yes, yes! Well done, Papa Grimes is a hero!
Christmas done! Happy Christmas done! Happy Christmas done!
I want to appreciate. Okay, Papa Grimes, how are you going to score Misha Grimes? Be careful with your scoring if you want to stay married.
Some steering wheel.
Oh, no,
and it would be like slime.
Tell us.
I've got my jetpack. Come on, then.
How cute are they?
I'm looking for naked women.
Oh, please now. Look. Do you want any custard?
I don't even want it. I'm going to have more chocolate.
Hey, he is! Oh my! Okay, Papa Grimes got something to say.
No.
No?
No close up.
Well, we can.
Obviously he hasn't got good manners. What is he doing?
Now.
What?
He's gonna hit me with us! Yeah, he's gonna hit me with it!
What are you doing, you weirdo?
Is it like an optical illusion?
Yeah.
Oh, if you go as far away, my head will look bigger.
Ah, okay.
I love how I'm the only one that gets my father's horrific.
It's just us, Misha.
Your life is
Just
wonderful.
left with a screeching wife.
Thanks very much.
Oh my gosh, Dad, it's literally sellotape. Just rip.
You
We're
might
not
have
gonna
to
say.
reduce this down.
Yeah, I think I will. I think I might have to fast forward. Just open the damn thing.
Alexa, talk dirty to me. She talks about dirt and learn how to not take photos.
He's got Toblerone!
No, I think it's his ginger biscuit.
No, it's Toblerone.
Extra large Toblerone.
Oh, look at those double chins. Can you see why I love this man so much?
And Dad is cutting his eyebrow. Look at him.
Don't
Look
worry,
at him.
I've got this.
I'm scared he's going to cut them off. I can't watch. I can't watch.
I'll tell you what, if I've got my buzzer.
They did look very long yesterday. I did notice that.
Yeah, well they do, because they get cut, so they do grow. Excuse me, world, this is not how I do it.
He's been a bit of a celebrity since I've done the spa vlog. But look at what he's doing to me. No, Papa Grimes, I'm not expecting.
Do you get to a stage where you start putting chin mascara or chin shadow?
That's called contour.
Think breakfast. Look at that body. I'm the lucky one, aren't I? He looks like. Let's check this handsome boy out. Come on, pretend that you like me. There, you
Hello.
old man.
No, you wear them around the house so Mother can fancy you.
School. Who watches the most TV? Who's funnier? Who gets away with the most?
55 and almost the full head of hair. Okay, Anya's decided to take a job as a hairdresser and just restyle Papa Grimes.
What sort of cake is that? That bit is blueberry and almond. The rest of it is sponge.
How is your sausage, Papa Grimes?
It's a bit sore.
So me and Papa Grimes, we're just doing, what do we call this? A bedroom scene. I mean, look at him. He looks like Marge, don't you? Look at him. He said he's far too old to be doing modelling at his age. Look at that towel.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
This is strange. This is a video I hoped to never film. I don't want to start crying from the first 3 seconds because that's not a very good start. But hi, it's been like 6 weeks since you've seen me, and even longer since you've seen Mum. But yeah, this is a video we've thought long and hard about.
Tried to start a few times and failed.
Yeah. But hopefully today we'll manage to get our words out. I can't promise that we won't hysterically cry throughout this, because that probably will happen, especially from me. But this video is pretty much just to say that sadly Papa Grimes, Daddy, John Grimes isn't with us anymore. Oh my God's sake.
You're already started.
Okay,
I'm the mother.
This is a great start, Mum.
I'm the strong one. So on the 3rd of August this year, we lost Papa G. We lost him, but he's still with us.
He's not allowed to go anywhere. We're filming this on the hottest day.
And we've got Papa G's jacket on us just for good luck.
I brought it, I sleep with it every night, and I brought it with me because I felt like I just needed him here. And we're trying to dress in yellow, so we're the sunshine. But hi, yeah, if you don't, because you might not know anything about us, you might have never seen our faces before, you might just be stumbling across this video because you're going through or you've been through a similar experience. But hi, I'm Misha Grimes, and this is my mum, Mama Grimes, hence where Papa Grimes comes from, or as he called himself, Alpha Papa, which nobody else called him that, but we could just leave that with him. And 2 years ago, my dad was diagnosed with motor neurone disease, ALS. I don't really remember that time, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like my brain has fogged that from my experience, because how do you cope with the love of your life and your dad coming home to tell you that the doctors say that you've got 2 years to live? And sadly, as you can tell by us being here, they were pretty much spot on by 2 days. So, although it's been a very long journey to this point, it's also been a very quick journey. And I don't even know how to...
Where to begin?
Like, where do you begin in all of this? Obviously, we never spoke about his condition during the process, and that is because we had hope.
Yeah.
And basically, so for anyone that hasn't heard of ALS, because I mean, I hadn't heard of it.
No.
People might have heard of it from Stephen Hawking. He had a very, very rare case. He managed to live, obviously, a very long life, but he was also diagnosed very young. It is typically more common in people who are 60, 70, 80. Dad was obviously turning 60 next year, so Papa was 59 when he passed away. But how the disease works in a nutshell is it affects your neurons, it affects your nervous system, and that results in muscle loss, it results in fatigue, it results in twitching. There is so many different ways that your body can react to motor neurone disease. We will tell you about Daddy's journey. Obviously it was very difficult to go into detail at the time, and we did have that hope, like I said, that they had a misdiagnosis, because there isn't a test for ALS. There is only symptoms-based tests for ALS. They can only look at you and tell you you have it. There is no medical tick scan, you know, it doesn't work like that.
There is a test, but that's only for ALS that's been inherited genetically, which we don't believe was the case in Papa G's case. But just to explain, Papa G throughout his life had several falls and hit his head on several occasions. So we wanted to seek second opinion, and only rightly so, in order to identify that potentially that might have been the cause. Could have caused very similar side effects to ALS, and we hanged on to that hope for best part of 2 years. And some may think how foolish of us, but I am so grateful, because those 2 years
would have been so much worse if we would have believed it and we didn't have that hope that he was gonna get better. It is a very, very rare condition. It's 1 in every 100,000 people. There are 5,000 people in the UK right now that have it. And
there is a lot of research, and that was very, very difficult for us.
It is more common in sports people, in rugby players, in boxers, because obviously they do have a lot of head injuries, and obviously Papa G was a very active and fit man, which kind of makes it even harder.
Yeah, he was on his bike 4 times a week and frequently came off it with a broken helmet.
Yep. There is hope for people with motor neurone disease in the future.
Yeah, there is some good work being carried out.
And Dad even applied to be part of the studies, but with COVID and everything, nothing could really happen. I also feel like I want to say that this video, you'll see there's ads in this video, and that is because the money that is made from this video will be going to the motor neurone disease charity, the one that Dad selected. For God's sake.
And Misha has set up a giving page.
Just giving.
Just giving page. Only just. So we will leave the details down below. But by simply watching this video from the very beginning
and watching all the ads, please.
And watching all the ads will help other families like us to hang on, hopefully long term, to the loved ones.
Yeah, I just don't want anybody else to have to go through this if I can help it.
Can I just mention and talk about coronavirus? Misha was a full-time carer, and she was actually exempt and allowed to come and visit us. I know she appeared, you know, in videos online, and we were going from one house to another, and a lot of people were wondering what was going on. We were living in a 4-story house in town, and unfortunately very early on in John's demise, he was not able to make the stairs. So we were very fortunate that we were able to go into our rental home.
I just feel like there was so much that I got so much hate for.
Yes.
The people, I'm sorry, because I didn't want to go into the detail of what was going on.
Because
when people are having a go at you for breaking COVID guidelines for moving house, how can I say, oh, it's because my dad only has a year and a half left to live and he can't do the stairs, when that wasn't Dad. He didn't like to make a fuss of himself, and obviously he knows that we're doing this video right now, and he knows that we need to. But I just wanted to scream so much that I just wish people could have understood, and I understand that was my fault because I didn't go into it.
No, it wasn't your fault.
I just think this whole experience has taught me so much, and it's just taught me so much how you just need to think about other people, and you just need to think you don't know what's going on in someone's life. And I know I've been very private about it all up until Dad's death, but that's just because I couldn't cope with the world that I was in and the situation that I was in combined.
Again, the important thing is that Dad's family did not know the situation for a long time,
and that was through Daddy's request.
That was for Daddy's request, and also because we had that hope,
and because it was COVID. So if you told someone, oh, Daddy's not doing very well, they can't come and see him, so it's kind of just making it worse. And I feel like we all felt very guilty for that, but we knew it was Daddy's wish. And his mum actually turned to us not that long ago and she said, I'm so grateful you didn't tell me until you told me, because then I could come and see him, and then I could actually do something about it and spend time with him. And so we're protecting ourselves, the family around us, and everything in between.
Absolutely. But also I think it's just so important to say that he still wanted all of us to try to live as much of a normal life as we could and do the things that we planned to do before we even knew that he was unwell. So he was just bloody amazing.
He was. He was the best dad you could ever wish for, and I'm allowed to say that. I'm allowed to say he's better than any other dad. I am.
I mean, he was bloody annoying at times.
He was an absolute arsehole, but we loved him for it.
April 2019, me and Papa G went on holidays. It was after Misha's birthday, and he yet again had another fall down the stairs. It was an
absolute klutz.
And we went on the holiday, and he loved his coffee. So, stupidly, I served him 7, I'm not lying, Nespresso, not Nespresso. Shots.
7 shots of coffee and 1 coffee.
Not realising it. He woke up the next morning and his whole body was twitching. And we were laughing about it.
I remember you sending it to the group chat, like I've poisoned your father with all this coffee.
We just thought, oh my goodness me, we overdid his caffeine. He also started to limp because of the fall that he had. However, that twitching was nothing to do with the coffee and continued for almost two and a half years. So of course we went to see a specialist, April, May time. They did some tests, and at that point they said non-conclusive. However, in a very short period of time, we noticed that Paps had started to have real difficulties with walking. Then we did some further tests, and unfortunately they were all indicative of the fact that he had ALS. I remember the day. I took him in the car because he was already having difficulties in walking, even though the hospital was literally 5 minutes down the road. And I was so confident that he's gonna come out and he's gonna just say everything is fine. They did MRIs, they didn't find any tumours, you know, everything looked so good. And he said to me, come out of the car, and he gave me the biggest cuddle in the world. And he said, I've got ALS. I said, what the f is ALS? You can't swear on YouTube. I remember clear as a day that night, we all sat down as a family round the table, and he said to us, girls, one day you're gonna have to wipe my bottom. One day I'm gonna be in a wheelchair. One day you're gonna have to use a hoist to lift us. And we just shouted at him. We just said, no, no, that can't happen. But if it does, we will deal with it at that time. And that is what got us through, apart from the hope, for the last 2.5 years, because we lived for every day that we had with him. And the only way that we could get through it is not to think about the next potential difficulty.
We just had to take it day by day. For someone that fitness and health was such a huge part of his life, like, I just remember it being so heartbreaking, and I know that that's now why I won't ever stop with it, because I feel like I'm continuing his legacy of being into all of it, and like that's why, like, me and him always discussed about me being able to do a pull-up, and he was telling me about how I need to do this and do that and do that, and like, I will bloody get there, Dad, so I will do it. It's going to take me many years, but I just think that that is why it's been so difficult to not only watch the deterioration in someone, it's watching the deterioration in someone that fought so hard his whole life to keep that healthy lifestyle, to like, look after himself. He cared so much about his body, and then it's only him that manages to get something that he can't have any control over, and there's no bloody cure right now. Very annoying, Daddy.
However, in spite all of that,
he was so strong.
That man was amazing. He smiled every day, he joked every day, and he did everything to try to get himself better.
Oh my god, the amount of hours that you two spent, and Mum also needs a award for the amount of hours, the phone calls, the doctors, the stem cell research, this, like, everything. Like,
we were travelling up to London, he was getting brain treatment, and the brain was improving, but his body wasn't responding. However, I cannot tell you how hard he thought.
Oh my god, he
used to go on a bike in order to get his muscles going, and initially he was able to get on it himself. Then we had to help him, then we literally had to lift him onto it, and he kept on going. Then we got him a little mini bike that he could literally just use, you know, from his chair. And
I just think it kind of went from him struggling to walk, and like not being able to stand for too long, and like leaning against walls, to then him using crutches, to him using one crutch, then to him using 2 crutches, then to him using a stepper, so kind of like what you see like an old lady with in the street who uses it to like balance themselves, and he used that, and it went from...
And he walked up and down minimum of 25 times a day.
It was like a strict regime of him doing these steps, and originally he would just walk about as normal, and then obviously as things got tougher he would just do his walks. And you know, it's even like such silly little things that I think about, but like Dad is never the guy that would ask you to make him a cup of tea. Never. That wouldn't happen. No. Whereas it just became normal for us to make him a cup of tea. Like he couldn't go to the kitchen and just do something for himself. And although it very much started in the lower part of his body, and that is another thing that kept us going, because we were like, well, it's not ALS, because ALS affects the top half of your body as well. But over time, that twitching that was in his lower body
moved up,
travelled upwards, and although it first started in his legs, and then, you know, he couldn't walk, he couldn't do this, and then he had to go in a wheelchair, and he had to have a special chair to sit on the sofa, we still thought, well, if he just has to spend the rest of his life in his wheelchair, that's absolutely fine.
As long as his upper body is okay.
And then over time, he started to lose his muscles in his upper body. He even like ordered weights from Amazon and was doing like little workouts with Anya. He had these little balls that we always laughed because they looked like love eggs or something sexual. And he would do like exercises with his wrists and his hands, and he tried so hard to fight the disease. Like, he tried with everything in him. He never gave up. He didn't. Even to the very end, trust me. He did not give up. And I think...
And also, we never gave up. And we wanted to spend every living moment with him as a family, without any help and support in terms of carers. Not that we against it.
No, people are amazing that
people
do that.
are so amazing, and there was a lady that came at the very end that needs a real special mention. However, it was the right decision.
There was 3 of us that could come and look after him, and you know, a lot of the times when I came home, like, I didn't post about it because, like, I'm just busy looking after Dad all day, which obviously I wish I could go back to that. Like, I wish I could do that again.
Just 1 hour.
Wait. Give his feet a massage. He had a right old routine, but that's a whole other story.
He certainly did.
But it was the day of the final of the Euros, when England were in the final and they subsequently lost, which I'm actually still pissed off about just for Dad's sake. And I'd been home for I think over a week, and I was leaving the next morning, and as we said, it travelled up his body, and towards the last few months it was in his throat, and I mean as in his muscles inside of his throat and his chest and his lungs were all starting to get affected. So throughout Dad's life, he's always been someone that had a lot of phlegm and used to like spit it in a tissue, and that was always normal for Dad. And that was actually the thing
that got him in the end.
Sped up the process, because when your whole body is shutting down, it's going to pick on your weak parts. And he started to choke on food. But I mean, prior to that, we already started feeding him, and you know, like, it's all these stages that I think we didn't care to do it. As in, we didn't care about doing it because we loved him, but I just know how much it would have hurt him that his own little girls that he brought into this world are kind of parenting him in a way.
At the end, he could not do anything. He could not even press an alarm.
He was pretty much just choking a lot, and food was getting stuck, and he had an appetite till the very end.
Oh goodness me.
Oh my god, that man was always hungry. He would eat 3 big fat meals a day.
However, because of the muscle loss, we did notice quite a significant weight loss.
Me and him had a little technique of when he was coughing, because he couldn't get the phlegm up because he didn't have the muscles, that we would bend him over on his back and I would tap his back, and then he would manage to like spit it up.
Yeah, this was all approved by occupational therapists.
I was going to say that. Don't worry, I wasn't doing anything I wasn't supposed to. We checked everything. And it was this one night when the football was on, and we had a giggling squid.
We did.
We had a giggling squid, and Dad had a pad thai, and he got through about half of it, and he was just choking far too much. And he said, no, I'll try the rest tomorrow. Daddy did sleep without Mum.
In a hospital bed.
Yeah, so he had his own bedroom, just because it wouldn't have worked any other way.
He had a little alarm in his hand so that if he woke up during the night, Anya used to do the the girls used to do, me and Misha used to do the night shift and Anya used to do the morning shift. So typically...
He slept a lot as well, by the way. He was still sleeping like 12 hours.
Absolutely. So we had a good routine, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We was never left for 1 second on his own.
So it was this certain night that he was coughing up a lot, and we had a little measure for like his oxygen levels, and they were quite low. I remember standing over his bed and being like, Daddy, if you need me in the night, ring the alarm. But prior, we'd had no issues. He would sleep through the night, absolutely nothing. I said,
till lunchtime.
Literally. I was like, if you need me, just ring the bell. And at 5:30, which was very early for him, the bell alarmed. So I ran downstairs, stark bollock naked, may I add. Dad was very entertained, telling me to put some clothes on. And he had not slept a wink. And he'd just been choking the entire time. So we did all of our normal exercises and none of it was relieving him. And he was really struggling to breathe and he was getting quite wheezy. And then he accidentally clicked the alarm again and that woke up Anya. Anya took one look at him and she said, we need to call an ambulance.
I was snoring my head off.
Yeah.
I was on a night shift, so I was allowed.
So I don't know how Mum didn't hear the commotion, I don't know any of it, but I didn't want to wake her and like until they were there. So the ambulance got here in like next to no time. Anya went upstairs and woke up Mum, and it actually worked out that they were with us, the ambulance team, for
about 4 hours?
3 or 4 hours with Dad in the house because of Dad's condition and because he had a bit of a temperature. They wanted to put him in the COVID unit and we were refusing because I just knew that if Dad had got COVID in these past 2 years, he wouldn't have lived. He wouldn't have been able to deal with it. Eventually, we managed to get Dad to the hospital. Mum obviously went with him in the ambulance, and he didn't have to wait in A&E.
Went straight onto the ward.
That was amazing. The hospital was a whole nother experience.
Yeah. Because Papi could not notify anyone of his distress, we obviously were by his side and we all took turns.
We didn't leave that man for more than 1 second for the week he was in hospital.
So yeah, you know, each of us took, well, basically, yeah, I didn't want to let them. I really, the first 2 nights were so hard, and I really thought, you know, the suffering was just so bad. I didn't want the girls to witness it.
They were unsure of what ward he should be on, so he moved ward all the time.
3 times.
And then obviously they didn't really comprehend how unwell Daddy was, and that like if he wanted a drink he couldn't even get himself a drink. So we needed to be there, like we needed to, and I understand that the NHS are so, I now truly understand how underfunded they are and how amazing they are, but there isn't enough resources for someone like Dad, so we needed to be there. They also didn't want to give him any food when he was there for the first 3 days.
Because of the fear of choking, so unfortunately he was nil by mouth for 3 days.
Which was really flipping hard to see.
Very, very hard.
But yeah, Mum spent the first 2 nights, and then Anya, I mean, we were all coming in during the day. They would let him have visitors, which I was so grateful for. And I was obviously supposed to be leaving that day that he went into the hospital, and I honestly think that first day of the hospital, that whole experience was the first time that I realised, shit, we're actually gonna lose him. Like, that was the first time that it hit me that like he's not gonna be here forever, because the conversations that were being had and the talk of palliative care and all of these terms that I'd never heard been used before.
And I had the very hard job of telling the girls that I spoke to the palliative doctor and that the palliative doctor said that he had weeks to live. Now, some of you may think we are so naive, but honestly, even the people that cared for him in terms of occupational therapists, people like that, you know, they felt that he still had months, if not, he'd make it till next year. You may think that we were so naive to think that we had more time.
Especially considering the 2 years that were given.
Absolutely, but it was really only in the time that he went into hospital and he was diagnosed with pneumonia that we realised that, you know, that's it, there is no more hope. I remember whilst he was in hospital, I was still running around like a headless chicken and doing some more blood tests for him, still looking for that
magical
answer.
Yeah, the hospital was a very difficult time, and when it was my turn to spend the night with Daddy, and like, it was like we did like 24-hour shifts and then we switched so that people could sleep, because you know you don't sleep in a hospital, as we know. And I remember prior, I didn't want to say anything to the girls, but I was so scared to be just me and him in case anything ever happened. And obviously you're in a hospital and they can take care of him, but at the end of the day you are still taking care of all his little needs, not his big needs, but you know, the little bits that are important to him day to day. And that was honestly one of the nicest 24 hours that I've had. And we watched A Simple Favour, and he'd never seen it before, and we were laughing, and there was also a lot of really tough conversations that were had, and one of them was about the dream home that Mum and Dad had planned on having, and that was going to be a bungalow, so that it would work for Dad. And we still had hope that they would get there, but Dad sat me and Anya down and he basically said, I don't want your mum to go ahead with the bungalow because I don't want to get there and then tarnish the memories of that place. And yeah, so that's what happened. Mum pulled out of the sale of the house, and I know that was a really tough thing for you, because that was again another thing that kept us going. Well, we're going to get to this beautiful house, and although Daddy might be in a wheelchair and he might not be able to do this and not be able to do that, but we're going to modify the house and it's going to be perfect. But I completely understand that Dad didn't want Mum to get there and then him to no longer be here and her just be in this giant house that she didn't need, that's in the middle of nowhere. And I completely understand, and I just think about what a brave
man he was.
To have all these conversations and to know, that's what breaks me, to know that you're not going to be around for those things. And I just can't even fathom what would have been going on in his head. But that's why I'll forever be eternally grateful for how he was over the 2 years.
Also, he talked about not having any regrets.
Yeah.
That was so beautiful.
Yeah, he said he didn't have any regrets. He did say he would have liked a son. He was like, no offence to you and Anya, but I would have liked a son. But as we've spoken about online, Mum did have a miscarriage of a son many, many years ago. And, you know, now Daddy's with them. And his dad, because sadly Dad's dad also passed away young, which
and
again breaks my heart.
Yeah, and talking about that, it's really weird. When Misha first started doing YouTube, we did a video Q&A, and one of the questions was, what was your biggest fear? And I said my biggest fear was that Paps would go before me. I wanted to go after him because I felt that he would handle it better than I would.
You're doing a bloody good job.
And because there was absolutely nothing else that they could do for Paps, and we were so desperate to come home. We didn't want him to pass away in the hospital. We wanted to have him all to ourselves. And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
We had 2 weeks with him after that.
Yeah, and at this point we kind of realised that although we've declined help in the past, like it had got to the point now where he needed 24-hour, you needed to be awake when he was asleep and watch him and check on him. So we coincidentally found our guardian angel, Claire, who is a palliative care nurse, and she's also now part of our family. I call her Auntie Claire. And honestly, the things that people do who work in that industry are incredible. And
Claire, if you're watching this, thank you for everything, because she was able to prepare us, she was able to guide us on what to expect. Papa G was really fighting for us. The 2 boys in our family, Sam, Anya's boyfriend, and Jake, They were absolutely incredible. The strength and the support and the help with some of the decisions that Papa G would normally assist us with. Oh, they're so weird, because they, like, if you put them together, they
would literally be him.
They make up Papa G. And they were so brave, because can you imagine, they were doing things that they would have never thought they would need to.
I mean, you don't, as I said, you don't get a relationship with someone thinking that they're going to lose their parent.
Yeah, and Jake never ever saw Papa G
healthy, which breaks my heart.
Yeah,
but he got to see him, and like that's all that matters. Yeah, so the last 2 weeks,
boys, if you're watching this, we could not have done it without you. Stop stroking my bosom.
I'm doing a dad. And in the end, it got very, very difficult.
Oh, I don't have any regrets, but I have a degree of guilt, because the last 2 weeks we had so much to do in terms of business, in terms of lining up plans to make sure that things went smoothly.
Because in reality, although we were told it would be 2 years, we didn't believe it, so we hadn't made any. You don't, like, how do you plan for someone to die and make all the like paperwork okay and this and that, like it's all so complicated. And then we were like, shit,
yeah, we need to do it. So myself and Anya were really focusing on that, trying to get everything in line, because that's what Dad wanted us to do, because he didn't want to make our life more difficult than
and he knew all the info, he knew all the passwords to the accounts and things like that. It was a bloody nightmare.
Yeah. And Misha, pretty much single-handedly, we were around, but we had to work. Looked after Dad, which I think was really difficult, because she got him at the worst possible time, and that's why I think she's now probably struggling the most.
Do we? No, because I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that
I know, but
I was there for his toughest times. We still smiled every day, and literally 2 days before he passed, we were watching The Big Bang Theory, and Annie used to sing him Soft Kitty. If you've ever heard it, you'll know. And coincidentally, the exact episode that me and Dad watched had Soft Kitty. But it is such a difficult experience to see the person that you love the most in the world disappear.
Right in front of your eyes.
And not be able to say yes to his requests. So
yeah, like he wanted to eat and he wanted to drink, but we knew if we gave it to him, he was running such a high risk of instant respiratory failure, which means that he would have died in such distress. By this time he was already on morphine, and he was kept pretty much pain-free, but there were moments when the morphine ran out and he was in so much pain and agony, and Misha was the one that probably witnessed it more, and she was the one that was able to understand him.
He got some difficulty getting his words out with all the drugs that he was on to get rid of the pain. He just couldn't get the words out.
We could not understand.
And it was so difficult to understand him, and there's nothing worse than like not being able to do something to help that person.
But you knew exactly what you wanted.
I tried.
You were more in
I got it wrong a
him.
few times, and I got a few side eyes from him. I won't lie, there was a few times I really cracked when I was looking after him, but I also was so grateful that I got to, because, you know, I knew it wouldn't be forever.
He was with us during the night, literally by his side, and then obviously we were doing
the day
shifts, but yeah.
And the last meal that me and Daddy shared actually was a coconut, lime and pineapple, I think, ice lolly. But it was kind of in that time where I could see how much suffering was happening that I just spoke to Claire and I said to Mum, and I said, like, he needs to go. He can't be going through this. He can't be putting himself through this. Like, this isn't okay. And it was then that I realised that it was almost for the best. And I know that Mum took a lot longer to get to that. But it was because I was seeing the pain in his eyes every time I moved his arm or something. I just thought, I don't want to put you through this any longer. It was the night before the day that he passed that they swapped out his morphine for something else that was stronger, because it wasn't providing that pain relief.
Still had morphine as well.
Okay. And I know we all kind of discussed, and Claire let us know that maybe it's a good idea for us to tell Daddy that we're okay for him to leave us and he'll be in a better place, which no one wants to do. No one wants to say goodbye. And
we did that.
Yeah, I remember that night when the nurses came to change like his driver and stuff. I think I sat with him for like an hour, and obviously he's not responding. He was obviously still awake, he was still, you know, alive, but he was so sedated to deal with the pain that I just sat there and I held his hand and I talked to him about what it would be like when he goes up there and how we'll all be okay and how I'll make sure to look after the girls. And God, I made all these promises that were so inaccurate, but I was desperate.
Yeah, and I remember that was that last evening, and I literally would not leave his side.
No, Mum was singing.
And I kept on saying to him, yeah, and I kept on saying to him, don't you dare go when Claire is here, looking after you during the night. We want to be together with you. And that's exactly what happened.
Mum woke me up at 7:30 on the morning of, and obviously it's because we thought it was happening, because his oxygen level was dropping, his heart rate was dropping very quickly.
Going up and dropping like a yo-yo.
Yeah, so I ran downstairs again, half naked, and Claire was there at the edge of his bed, and then me, Anya and Mum were there, and then it came back up.
Yeah.
And it did that about 3 or 4 times throughout the day.
And he tried to say something, and we believed that he was saying, I love you and thank you. But that was the last time he really spoke.
Yeah, and the whole day we spent, all of us, sat in the room with him. I literally sat next to him, I didn't move the entire day, and I just held his hand.
No, actually, Misha, you and Anya were in bed with him.
Well, yeah, by the time later on in the day, it was obviously quite a big bed that Daddy was in, and he was quite a small man by the end. And Anya was on one side and I was on the other side.
And I was hovering.
It kind of got to the point where we could see that it was slowly happening, so we knew that it was going to happen. And Alfie, obviously they say that dogs are very aware of what's going on. And Alfie had been weird the entire week. He wouldn't leave Dad's room, you know, he was checking on everyone. And we picked up Alfie and we put him on the bed with Daddy. And basically the whole day he was just by his feet. He didn't move. And like 20 minutes before it happened, Alfie got up and he walked over to Daddy and he led on Daddy's chest and he licked his hands.
And at this point, John was breathing quite heavily, and it was literally like a trumpet.
Yeah, his little head was going.
He was not moving, was he? He was loving it.
He was with Dad, and you know, he was licking his hands, and God, he was making us cry even more. And then, just moments before it happened, Alfie just suddenly wanted to leave. He got up, and I think he was underneath the bed, because the bed was like not like a floating bed, you know what I mean. And then we were all with him, we were all lying with him when he took his last breath.
Yeah.
And Anya also got a phone call from the bloody car people in that moment, and she hung up.
And it was the saddest but also the most beautiful moment, wasn't it? All the things that we were scared of, that we thought we wouldn't be able to cope with,
had actually been the complete opposite.
We were completely opposite. We were with him for about 2 hours.
I didn't get out of bed after all of it, and I just thought, like, and I understand to an outsider that's never gone through this, they probably think that sounds absolutely crazy, and I agree, because I would have thought that.
Yeah,
but when it's your own family and it's your dad, you just don't want to say goodbye, even if they're not here anymore and they're only physically here. I realised it was time to tell some people in my life. So obviously all my close friends and Jake were very aware of what was going on, and yeah, I always dreaded making that phone call to Jake. But oh God, sorry.
And of course I had to tell John's mum he listened to me for once. He made sure that it was just us. There were quite a few other people that were on the way.
Claire being one of them.
Claire being
the
one
carer
of them.
Was coming.
Yeah, yeah.
But he beat her to it.
So that night, once we individually said goodbye to him, and then together we left, and
we decided that we probably should eat something. And we went to the pub up the road and we had Daddy's favourite drink, Fever Tree, gin and Hendrix, and we cried and we laughed.
Yeah. And then when we came back, he was gone. And then we started to organise their celebration of his life.
I had never been to a funeral before, nor had Anya, so I had zero expectations of what it's supposed to look like, what it is like. Yeah. But I think we gave him a pretty good, good send-off.
We did. So Papa G in his will said that he didn't want any black, he wanted colourful shirts for gentlemen and again colour for the ladies. So we then started to organise his cremation. The funeral directors that we met with were absolutely amazing, and basically we took over, didn't we? There was 25 minutes of celebration speeches.
I made a speech, Anya made a speech, Sam, Anya's boyfriend, made a speech, which probably broke me the most because you don't hear of, you know, son-in-laws who aren't even son-in-laws yet. We just talk like that, making a speech at somebody else's dad's funeral. And then my uncle spoke and a guy from Dad's group of best friends spoke.
Yeah. It was so beautiful. There was so much laughter. The
actual, the actual cremation ceremony was probably the hardest part of my entire life. And you know, when they drive down, and you know, I don't want to go into too much detail and like freak people out or make them upset. I mean, I'm pretty sure you will be upset anyway. But you know what I mean, like, you don't ever prepare yourself to see that and to experience that, especially not when it's your own dad. But the moment we got back here, it was incredible. And it was so beautiful and it was so special. We had this massive teepee of our lives.
And people said, this is the best funeral I've ever been to. I took it as a compliment. So we did all the crying in the crematorium.
Oh, we did more crying later, let's not lie. Our wedding song came on and that broke her.
Oh yes, yes. And that was completely unintentional, but it did hit me for 6. But I was just so amazed. So many people came, and some of them I have not seen Dad for so many years. Everyone talking about what a wonderful man he was, and everyone was saying the same thing, and that gave me so much strength because I thought I was the only one that really knew him, and what an honourable guy he was. What a good man.
But everyone knew
and
it.
How much better he made me. He made me think about things that he made me a better person. And the same for the girls. And everyone was saying the same thing, using the same words. And that was so beautiful. I was so happy.
To know he left such a print on people's lives.
Absolutely. And his friends, these grown-up men of almost 60, crying their eyes out at me, actually consoling them.
Hey, that's what I was doing. I arrived at the crematorium and I saw his best friend and he was crying his eyes out, and I literally just burst into tears, and I was like, that's your fault, I had my shit together. And that's just because he had such an impact on everybody's lives.
Yeah.
And this is like the quotes that they use about like when someone dies young, it's not like the age, it's the impact. And although that doesn't make it any easier, and I wish Daddy could have had 5, 10, 15, 30, 40 million more years, the fact that I got him for as long as I did and how incredible he was does make it that tiny bit easier. God, there's so much snot in me again. But yeah, that kind of leads us to now.
to know. But I think what we've tried to do, I know we are in upset state today. I've gone out shopping because that's what we did. A bit of retail therapy goes the wrong way. We've gone to places that he used to love, places where he used to eat, places that he used to walk.
Obviously I haven't been online very much at all over the last 2 months, and it's almost daunting now coming back to it. And I know that you guys are all amazing and you've all been so supportive, and like honestly I can't believe how much you guys feel like you know him through us and how we talk about him and when he's been in videos, and it's so amazing to hear that. And there's been so many people that have gone through similar things that message me, and this is why we want to talk about it. A, to raise money so it doesn't happen to other people. B, I think this has made me realise
Normalise grief. Normalise grief.
And like this whole experience, when Mum says about Dad making us better people, I would change all of this in a heartbeat. But I also know that growing up, I had an effing perfect life. I had no issues in the grand scheme of things. This whole experience has woken all of us up. Even if we talk about mental health, 2 years ago we didn't even understand what that was, and although obviously I wish we didn't have to go through any of this, I feel like I understand the world so much more, and I'm so much more grounded, I'm so much more teary, and I'm so much more heartbroken, and you know, I cry myself to sleep most blimmin' nights. But I know that he is still with me.
We really feel him, don't we?
Yeah,
it's just such weird things happen, honestly. It's just so strange, it's so unexplained.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if it's real or imagined, because it really, really helps us.
Exactly. And I just think moving forward we're trying to take it day by day.
Yeah.
And I'm really stabbing in the dark in terms of all this. You know, it's a very weird situation to be losing a parent and doing it whilst on social media, and I want to share it because I want to help anybody out there that's going through the same situation. And also I find it comforting having you guys tell me your stories, and the internet can be an amazing place, and that's what I want to highlight through this whole process. So I want to come back. I'm gonna have to make baby steps along the way, because you know it's difficult.
So Misha, thank you for allowing me to be here.
Don't be silly. I obviously was never going to do this video without Mum, and yeah, I just think this whole experience, we were already so close, we were already in each other's pockets, but like us three girls, like I said,
which other's coats now.
I said this to the family. I was like, Dad has just left us with the most amazing family, not just us three, but like my nan and all my cousins
and the boys. Oh, he loved the boys.
Yeah, like
he loved the boys so much.
We just have such
well, the boys are Sam and Jake, obviously.
We just had such a strong unit, and we still have such a strong unit.
Yeah.
And I know he'd be so proud of all of us.
Yeah. So Sam and Jake, the challenge is on.
Poor boys. They didn't realise they were going to be inheriting 3 daughters per se.
Literally. So I hope you join Misha on this little journey, and
I can't promise it's going to be put together. I can't promise it's going to make any sense, but I'll still bring you along.
And there are also hopefully some exciting things for you and for me on the horizon, because I was listening to a TED talk, as you do, about different stages of grieving, and someone very, very clever said that the only way that you can get through it is to imagine a future.
Yeah, and I think that's what I struggle with at the moment, because obviously the idea and the reality of, you know, your dad not being able to walk you down the aisle or meet your grandkids, like all those things break me in half. And they always will. It's never gonna that's never gonna get easier. But as I said, I literally just said, as I said, he's always with us, and I'm playing with my necklace that the boys got us, which has Dad's has Daddy, and then it has Misha, and Mum has one which says John and Kasha, and Anya has one that says Daddy and Anya. And then I also have a locket which on the back says Daddy loves you, and then it has a photo of me and Dad in it. So yeah, we're talking about him every day.
Yeah.
We're trying to distract ourselves when we're struggling and talk about it when we want to, and talk about him positively. And I think one thing I'm noticing that I'm doing is I am starting to remember him prior to ALS, which I think is so important, and I'm sure so many people will understand that have watched the deterioration of a loved one, because no one wants to be left with that image in their head, and I feel like my brain is almost protecting itself, which I'm very grateful for. Yeah, I might only have one parent.
Yeah.
Oh god, that is so real.
Yeah.
And she's bloody amazing.
Well, I've been mothered. He would not want you to stop. He would not want you to go backwards. He would not want you to mother me. One of his last words to Misha was, remember who the mother is.
No, one of my last words to Dad was me telling him how much I loved him, and he told me that he loved me so much too, whilst we were both hysterically crying. And then Mum was walking down the staircase and I said, I'll take care of her, and he went, no you won't, she'll take care of you. And he was right. Yeah. He was right, because I've been a blubbering mess out of everyone. I've been the blooming worst, but it's no surprise. But yeah, also obviously Anya has been, oh my god, honestly, she's so Dad. She's so dad.
And what really was so lovely in all of this unhappiness is that Anya became the older sister, the protective sister, you know. And
it hasn't felt like that in years, because she's not needed to, apart from when it came to boys, then she's always been protective. Dad was never the protective one. I
think everyone has risen up to their roles.
I think I've got in a completely different role. I thought I was, if you'd spoken to me and my therapist a year ago, I was like, I'm the strong one. I'm not the strong one. That is okay though.
Yeah.
That is okay. We're taking it day by day.
Yeah. And we all going through very similar grieving process. What happens now?
How do you outro?
Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for love, and thank you for the support, and onwards and upwards.
Yeah, I think a lot of things that have happened over the last 2 years will now make sense to a lot of people, and a lot of questions, and I don't even mean rude questions, but just a lot of questions that people had about our lives will be naturally answered, because this has been our entire world for the past 2 years, and it will continue to be for the rest of our lives. It will just hopefully get a little bit less painful as the days goes by. I can't see it happening anytime soon, but we're gonna try. As you can tell, we try and cope with everything with laughter and jokes, because that's exactly what Dad did. So I hope we don't offend anyone in the way that we talk. I hope we don't scare anyone in the way that we talk. We're just unapologetically us, and that's who Daddy loved us for.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so supportive in this whole journey, for not rushing me, and hopefully I'm ready to face the world, but if I'm not, that's fine. I'll just take it step by step and bring you guys along with me.
And I'm so proud of you, Misha. The way you've conducted yourself, you know, in a private life, in a family life, but also online. So much respect from me. Okay.
Last words. Love you, Daddy. We did it.
We did it.
I'm the crazy woman that speaks to their dad up in the clouds.
Yeah, and also I call him Daddy as well. So please forgive me.
Some people are really put off by the fact we call him Daddy, but that's just what we called him. I'm not going to change for anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know this video has hung over my head for the past 2 years, and I've thought about it a lot. Yeah. So I'm proud of us.
Yeah, and I never thought we'd have to do it.
So give me a high five. High five! That's what Daddy was used to go. High five! When you make a funny joke, you'd like high five if it was funny.
Oh god.
But anyway, we will continue to talk about him every day. We will continue to wear his t-shirts to bed and cuddle his jumpers, and
we've all got a blanket each that he used to use.
Look at his photos and everything like that. If you have any ideas of anything sentimental that we can do for ourselves,
we've got some ideas already.
We do. But anything like that, please send it our way. And yeah, thank you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything.
And hopefully you will see her again soon.
We're not making too many promises, but yeah. Love you guys lots. Bye.
Bye.